Hello, everyone watching. Welcome to Pride in Action Stories. My name is Caitlin, and my pronouns are she, her. I'm on the Pride in Action Network Committee. And here today, my guest is Jack. Jack, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone. My name is Jack, and my pronoun is he and him. And I'm an international student from Mongolia, and I am representing international students at Pride in Action Network since this January. Yep. And I'm doing my master at University of Melbourne. And the last thing, I am LGBT rights activist back home in Mongolia. Yeah. I think that's it.
Yeah, I mean, we could go on. Jack, I know that you're also volunteering with Switchboard and you're also involved with the Australian Awards.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if you could tell us briefly about the work you do with the Australian Awards and setting up the queer network there.
Mm-hmm. So I am here through Australian Awards program. Since I arrived here, me and other Australian Award recipients, award holders, decided to create queer space for other award holders, other queer award holders, because there are many people who came from different part of the world. In some part of the world are very hard to be gay, for sure. So that is why me and my friend decided to create better and safer space for everyone who's queer, but have some, have struggled background or experience to feel safer and better here. So that's how we started this queer network. It's small for now, but we're still trying to maintain and bring more people together to be who they are. And that's what we are trying to do in scholarship community wise. And I also started volunteering for Switchboard Victoria since this May. And this is very important to me as well. I've never realized how hard it is for elder LGBTQ people before, because in Mongolia, I never thought about elder LGBT people because I never seen one. Yeah. And this queer movement is quite new in Mongolian society, and also just last decade, Mongolian society starts talking about queer issues, and I'm very young LGBT activist. I never had a chance to meet elder LGBT people, exactly, and also majority of the LGBT people still remain closeted due to fear of losing jobs and all sorts of discrimination and obstacles. Yeah. So I never deeply thought about queer elder LGBT people's experiences, struggles. So this Switchboard Victoria enables me to understand the issues that elder LGBT people face, and I'm volunteering for Switch Victoria to socialize, to help elder LGBT people who are isolated and lonely, to make them feel better. Yeah, that's my role in terms of this volunteering. And I think as a young LGBT rights activist, it's very good experience, and I can bring back so many useful and important takeaways from here home. My scholarship, my study, this program, master program, will end next year. So I'll go back home after I graduate.
Yeah.
So everything I'm learning here is very valid. So yeah. I can just make it work once I'm back.
Yeah. And that's incredible. Are there some things that, when you say takeaways, are there some things that you're thinking of right now that you're thinking that's important to take back home?
Oh yeah, I'm learning so much, since I arrived here, especially queer movements in Australia is very strong and visible, even though marriage equality was quite late, just 2 years ago, it's very progressive. I can't even sometimes I can't even find words to describe. It's very visible and very progressive compared to where I'm from. Oh, yeah.
While we're talking about that, I'd love if you would like to share a bit
Mm.
of what's happening back home and
Oh, yeah.
work that you've done there to really kickstart a lot of the movement, the LGBT movement in Mongolia.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Sometimes to me, it's like sometimes it seems like hilarious, to be honest, because like, you know, in Australia now, the discussion is around like how to use jargons, which letters should we include, etc. But like in Mongolia, that's not like, you know, there's something we discuss, you know. We are trying to let people understand what sexuality is, what like gender identity is, what like game is. Like we're on this level, and like we're asking to people accept who we are, and that kind of like very survival and basic level. But in here, the discussion is like pretty different,
Yeah.
and you know, even pride has like very different, you know, like purpose. It's a celebration. It's more of a, I don't know, like creating uh, like happy and like safer space for everyone. Is that even pride seemed different to me, but in Mongolia, like for example, let's take pride as an example. So I participated like last Midsummer Pride March as part of University of Melbourne, as part of Pride in Action Network.
Mm.
And I saw that was the first time I've ever participated this kind of huge pride parade. And in Mongolia, I'm also like one of the pride parade co-organizers. So we started organizing pride since 2014. Our first pride march was in 2014. I
Wow.
think it's 6 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And we started around like with around 10 or 15 people. So that was like really scary. And yeah,
You were
so
one of
that
the
was,
10 or 15
yeah,
people in the
yeah, I
first
was
one.
one of them. I was one of, I don't even remember the numbers, but it was less than 15, I guess.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was scary. And year by year, the numbers are increasing. You know, like in 2014, it was like 15. Next year it was like 20 and 25. In 2019, I was not able to participate because I was here. And my last Pride in Mongolia was in 2018. It was like more than 150. So it was great, you know? So the numbers are increasing. People are getting much more, you know, like encouraged to come and participate Pride. But still, I receive lots of messages from young people. They really want to, like, you know, participate Pride, but they're really scared. You know, going to Pride is really scary in Mongolia. So you don't want to get seen with like bunch of like rainbow, bunch of like very visible gay people there, because your life is also, you also have life, you also have career, you also have like, you know, family that, you know, like because of this intolerance, because of this like strong discrimination in society, it's not very easy place to be, like, you know, out. It's not very easy to be a place to be outed. And also like outing someone is just normal there. So if you get seen with like someone gay, people will question your sexuality. That's hard. No, and the risk is maybe you're gonna lose your job or you're gonna get beaten up and etc. Yeah. So to me, it's like coming from that kind of society and like seeing what's happening here. It's kind of a, like really interesting, eye-opening, and yeah. So it's a great experience to me. Like I'll definitely bring like like as many as things possible that I can learn from here. Yeah.
Yeah, it's huge that, you know, in Mongolia, you're really, the fight is just for being able to exist, right?
Oh yeah.
And to be gay and to exist there.
Yeah, but again, Mongolia is kind of progressive when it comes to gay rights and like trans LGBT rights comparing to other parts of the world. And also like especially Mongolia is really interesting country. It's like located right between in like Russia and China, right between Russia and China, two of the biggest nations in the world, and they are known by their homophobic laws and, you know, like attitudes. But like Mongolia is like very different from those two countries.
Yeah.
and legally they are very progressive,
Okay.
and Mongolian LGBT people are already protected in the law, for example.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, sexual orientation and gender identity is one of the protected characteristics
That's
in the criminal code, for example. That's what like the LGBT Center, the organization that I used to work,
mhm.
is fighting for almost a decade, more than a decade actually. So
Mm.
it's getting more and more progressive in terms of law, but
Yeah.
acceptance and social attitude is still very hard, you
Yes.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they
And
can,
also
they
pride
can
is just
definitely be different
studying.
things. Yeah.
Mm.
Sorry.
And also pride is just studying, and
Yeah.
this public awareness is just studying. I think I'm pretty positive, and going queer movement is only 10 years old and we've achieved so much, and I think another decade I can't even say what we're going to achieve, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I would
maybe we're gonna become one of the second or third Asian country that actually legalize marriage equality. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
Asia is hard. You
You
know?
gotta.
Only Taiwan became the first country that actually legalized marriage equality last year.
Okay.
Just last year. Think about it. It's just
Mhm.
2019. Taiwan became the first Asian country. Sometimes it's so sad to me. But anyway, like that's
Yeah.
how things go, you know?
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Um, and I would love to hear as well. Um, I think it's so great that you're learning things here that you can take back home to the movement. But I'd love to also know um, what kind of things that you would love to teach people here in Australia, and if there's anything you'd like to say. I
Oh,
think
okay.
you bring a lot of perspective as well to the queer movement here, and so I wonder if you
That's
have any
very
advice
That's a very good question. I have lots to teach Australians.
or
Just
yeah,
kidding. I don't know how to answer to that question. I don't know if I have something to teach, you know, like queer movements here. It's already like too progressed and kind of far from like what we work in there. But like as an like student at the university,
mhm,
I like really want to what I like one of the most important thing that I learned from here is the academic data, you know, like I really want to create queer data, queer source, especially academic source back in Mongolia.
okay,
That's what I'm like aiming to do in the future. I really wanna become researcher.
mhm,
So I wanna like create queer data back home. So that's how I can support queer movement from different angle.
mhm,
Actually, like I was like really an activist, like you know, like based on like our like main job, basically based on cases and real kind of like cases and what should I do? Like cases and reality.
yeah,
So our movement like has nothing to back up our activism. We had no sources, we had no research, we had no statistical data that can just back up our activism.
right,
So like after I started like, you know, like studying here and like seeing all those academic resources and researchers, and
mhm,
that was the thing I taught to myself. So I should like, you know, I should do that kind of stuff since like in Mongolia, like we have zero data, zero academic data. So academic researchers tends to exclude the LGBT community all the time.
mhm,
They think that the LGBT community is not something that they should prioritize or include.
yeah,
So I think the reason why I'm here, reason why I'm studying here as an like student should be, you know, like oh anyway, I
hopefully
think you
get
got
that
my
started.
point. So
Yeah,
I
I
mean like
understand.
yeah.
Like, and I think those things are really important for bringing
Yeah,
change. Both those personal stories that make it really real for people, but also that academic research that helps show that there is sort of structural, institutional, widespread issues. You know, it's not just one person. This is
yeah,
really a lot of people we're talking about.
yeah. It seems like the thing that I want to learn is outweigh that like things that I want to teach. So I don't really have that much to like say to Australian queer movement. But like only thing I want to say is I think it's because of this recent situation, because of this COVID-19, because of this, like worldwide racism. So like I think Australians needs to be more pay more attention in like racism wise.
Yeah.
And like Australians are very good at like acknowledging uh like racism towards Aboriginal and Indigenous people, but like I hope like those acknowledgement became a real action.
Yeah.
Like I don't think it's like really in the level of action at this time.
Yeah.
So acknowledging is good. That's the first step. Like they're really good at like acknowledging at every level, but like I think it's really important to make it like more than just acknowledgement, to make it like more action. So
Yeah.
like queer movement is also like very I don't know, like it's not possible to exclude queer movement from this racial movement, I
Yes.
think. Yeah, so it's like racial movement is part of like queer movement as well, because there are many like queer people of color, queer indigenous people. So I think it's really important to like pay attention to those marginalized people within the group.
Yes.
That's the only thing that I can just say to
No, I think
you
that's
here.
really
Yeah.
important, and thanks for sharing that. Yeah, because yeah, I think you're right. I think that that still is an issue even within the community
Yeah.
in Australia.
Yeah, so I think I always ask, and like Mongolia is very homogeneous society, so we only have like one race. So in terms of race, we never experience what racism is, to be honest. But like if you take a look, this like racial movement, it's just like struggling for centuries. But like look at our queer movement, it's just like couple of decades and we achieved so much.
Yeah.
If queer movement achieved so much in a few decades, why racial movement is struggling for centuries? That's very obvious question that everyone can guess. So as a queer rights activist, we have to like back up racial movement and also include them, and also like fight harder for those like marginalized community members among within the wider community.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. This video is going out to the Pride in Action Ally Network at Melbourne University. So I'm just wondering if, to finish off, you have any stories about allies or any sort of experiences of allyship that you'd like to share.
Like when I think of the word ally, I always think of my best friend. So yeah, coming out is always a big deal for us. Like it's always like I don't know. So like I came out to my best friend after I finished high school. So like somehow like he just reminded me of the word allyship since then, ally since then. So now obviously I can see this word more wide. So for example, as a like Asian person, that it's really important for me to educate myself about like anti-black racism, for example. So I think allyship is about acknowledging your privilege to educate and learn about something you are not related to. I think that's probably the best way I can describe what allyship is.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jack, for sharing with us and spending your time today. I'll say farewell to all of those watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video.
Thank you. Bye.